that good?
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so I'll leave you to it. I can't wait to learn from you again, and I'll jump back in when you're finished. Thank you, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, John. I'm excited to be here today. Mote is a tool that I fell in love with. And honestly, it was one that blew my mind. And it was all centered around what my topic is today, Mote with littles, because I found such value in having this tool at my fingertips. And the second thing, like not only that it was there, but the incredibly easy way that I could use this in a classroom. Very little setup, very little, it's not a lot of button clicking and everything like that. So, my whole job is focused on supporting teachers and their students in their classrooms. And my passion is all about using technology where it's appropriate to help support the learning. It's never in place of the learning. And I don't use tools because they're cool. Like I use them because they have such high value. And Mote is one that I have talked up big time in my district. I fell in love with it and I thought, oh my gosh, like where has this been? And I thought I was just missing out. So when I started using it, it was just kind of like, wow. Now, a little bit of background is, as John said, I taught in the classroom for 14 years. Half of that was at fifth grade, half was at seventh and eighth grade. And then this job was created in my district as a technology integration specialist. And I was shifted down to the elementaries, which was not my cup of tea. And if you go down and have the pleasure of working with little ones, it is a different ballgame. It is a very different day-to-day experience, and yet you can see these little ones take such huge strides. But as a teacher, it means you have to really flip what you're thinking. So when I first started using Mote, I was going into kindergarten classrooms and I was helping support the teachers and the kids accessing some of our digital programs. If you've ever been in a kindergarten classroom, you know what I'm talking about. It is all kinds of questions. It's kids popping out of their seats. It is just it's exhausting, but a wonderful exhausting. So I talked with some of the teachers as we were doing some of these activities, and I just thought, gosh, like I am repeating myself so many times. What was that again? Where do I click? What is that? How do I do this? Hands in the air, which is typical for a classroom. But I had some kids that could easily recognize, kindergartens where you see the kids that like have really gotten it and the kids that are still working at it. So when I started with Mote with littles, it was in a kindergarten classroom. And I have to say, it was amazing. The very first time I did it with these kids, I had more difficulty showing them where the port was for them to plug in their headphones than for them to actually do the activity. It was amazing and it was wonderful. So my whole presentation today is focused around using Mote in activities to support your little ones. So here we go. Who should use Mote? Honestly, everybody, all students, all teachers, all grades, all contents. Like, don't think of Mote as something that only littles should use. It's a fantastic tool for them, but it's going to work for everybody. And why? Because it's going to support all kinds of learners. And I'll kind of explain through that as we go through some of these different activities. It is also going to greatly improve the independence of your students when you're providing these activities for them to do. If you stop and you go, how many times have I said the same directions? Mote will take that burden off of your shoulders. I lived that for how many years in seventh and eighth grade. And you no matter how you try to work at it, the kids are going to still ask you, right? Mote's going to help with that too. So therefore, it's going to save you a lot of time. You can really focus in on supporting the kids that need that interaction, because Mote's going to help alleviate some of that repetitiveness. So here we go. Let's jump in. One of the very first activities that I did with kindergartners was during their dental health week. And if you know anything about the primary ages, a lot of times they do typically theme their weeks of learning. So this week's topic was all about dental health. A dentist was coming in, showing them how to properly brush their teeth and all that. And I thought, I could do this. Like, this is going to be awesome. So I created this little slide deck. I talked with the teacher, like, What are the skills that they're working on? What is something that I could focus on? So remember, this is kindergartners. We're talking 5, 6-year-old kids, first full year at school, right? Because preschool, and now they're in kindergarten. So it's their first real experience with an actual, we use Chromebooks. So half the battle is getting the Chromebooks out, getting them at their desks. We use the clever QR badges for them to log in, plug in your headphones, and then get to where we need it to be. So I love using Google Classroom with them. So again, we're talking kindergartners, so imagine all the steps we're getting to. And today, this dental health activity is going to focus on counting, sorting, and doing some math. You might go, well, how in the heck are you going to do that? I have, I think, 4 different slides on this one, and I'm going to show you. It's matching their learning theme, reinforcing the skills that they're already learning, and Mote plays a huge role in this. So this is the slide deck that I send out to the kindergartners. They each get their own copy. This is a template, and I will share later in my presentation, like where you would be able to find all of these so you can make your own copy. Now, granted, these are all going to have my voice to them, but when I've shared these before and I've talked with other teachers, because it's got my voice in there, you could just straight up share it to your students. But the other cool thing about Mote is because I've recorded that in there, you could get your own recording of it, like just literally like copy what I say in your own recording and replace mine. Get rid of my voice so that the kids are hearing your voice. They think that is like one of the coolest things, that when you click on that speaker, it's going to play and they're like, oh, that's you. I'm like, yes, that is. You're going to hear my voice. It's really awesome. It gives those kids that personal connection. And in these last couple years that we've gone through all of the wild and wonkiness of it, being able to have that personal connection, like being able to say like, that is that person's voice. It's mind boggling to see those little ones smile. So this comes up. And another skill that we have to work on at kindergarten is recognizing what the different items do on a computer, right? So one of the tests that we take, it reads to them, but it doesn't automatically read to them. They have to click the speaker button. So I said, this is going to be awesome because we're also going to tackle that skill. So when they see that speaker button, they know that they have to click on it, but not just on these activities. It carries over into the other programs, the other activities that they're required to do, because they see that speaker button. So we talk a lot about, hey guys, like when you see a speaker button, what do? Well, we click on it because we have to listen to it. And after you get them comfortable with, I always call it like the bright purple speaker button to start with. And then as we do a few more activities, I'll change up the color. I might change up what the speaker looks like. So I'm kind of stretching their brain so that they recognize a speaker button as more than just this purple Mote one that it comes with. Because you can change those icons out, like, which I started changing them to match the themes. And I mean, it's mind boggling. So they get here and they click this button, dental health fun. They can play it as many times as they want, but they make that connection. They can read the words. And I'll also say, right while we're here, I did make the conscious effort, and I suggest that you do, because I didn't realize this until I was in the middle of an activity with kindergartners, is I made sure that the letters A, P, Q, on our Chromebooks, it's all lowercase. So I would have students, the first activity, I didn't think about it, but the A that I had on the screen didn't match the fancy A that's on their Chromebook. So sometimes working with littles, it's those little things that are going to make a big difference. So make sure that your font matches what their Chromebooks look like. Because if you keep in mind that they're still learning those letter associations, it's pretty big. So here's the first activity. Fun pictures. It's kindergarten. Teeth. We're in dental week. Real big. Let's count. Now, some of the kids are able to read some words. So I always want to be respectful of that too. And I want to encourage their reading. So I always type out the directions. But instead of me standing up there and having to read this and probably repeating myself, I recorded it. Let's count. How many teeth are in this mouth? Count them. Find the numbers on your keyboard. Type the number of teeth you counted on the toothbrush. So the students are able to listen to that, maybe multiple times, maybe once, maybe they're able to read. They could read along with it. And then you should see them. The first time they do this, they sit here and they count out those little teeth. Now, I just got it in template form, but over here there is a text box that you can clearly see once you have your own copy of it. So then the students have to click on that and then they type in their numbers. Now, honest and truly, I want them to get the right answer. But a big part of this activity is I'd like to build their independence. So if they count and they miscount, or maybe they tap this tooth twice, or their little fingers, count this tooth twice, or skip over a tooth, honest and truly, I'm not super concerned about this number. Or if they type it 5-1 instead of 1-5, right? So my goal is not perfection, but I can always come back to this and I can talk to that student about writing their numbers correctly, or let's count this again together. But in the meantime, they're working, they're excited, they're doing, and then they move on to the next slide. Now, this is one of my favorites. The kindergarten teacher had said very specifically that her students were struggling with the dragging and dropping on their Chromebooks. Yeah, you could pull in a mouse and give them a mouse to use. We have those available, but sometimes those are more difficult for the kids than learning how to do the clicking and dragging. So again, with dental health fun, you decide. Some things are good for your teeth and some things are bad for your teeth. Move the pictures below to the correct spot on the chart. So they recognize all of these, although I did find out like floss is not one that kindergartners recognize very easily, but then they have to click and drag over. So they're making decisions along with learning the text skills, but they're listening. And I will tell you that very few of the kids struggle with the listening of the directions. And if they call me over and they say, "Hey, Mrs. Kiefer, like, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do," I always ask them to tell me what the directions are. And a lot of times they'll be like, "Oh," and then they play it again, and then they tell me what it is. So I know that they're making those connections. And oftentimes, them just saying it to me out loud makes it click in their brain. So it's good modeling for them too. And again, not looking for exact perfection, like it would be wonderful. And a lot of the kids do a fantastic job, but it's really in this one, are you able to work independently? Like, are you understanding this? Because the kids mostly are good with this. Now, this one gets into a little bit higher level. So this is where your students get, and I plan these for about a half of an hour, and the teacher's always welcome to extend that longer. A lot of times will have the students come back to this after I walk out of the room if they're going out to a snack time or recess or something like that. But this one works on that letter association. I have the words recorded here. There's a little text box. Again, we're on the template of this, but the kids can hear it. They practice typing it. They can type in all of these depending on the time. And then we get into math. I love these. I have one of these slides in all of these activities that I do. It's some sort of math practice, and I really love substituting the theme in as part of the math practice that we're doing. So that's the first one that I've done. Jumping back into the presentation. Groundhog's Day. This one was a blast. I layered in a little bit of history with it. I'm not going to actually show you this one, although I will show you where you can get this one. But this one, again, is clicking and dragging. It's counting. It's math. It's letters and typing. Think of all of those things that these students are able to be working on. And again, Mote is right there. See how I'm starting to change the color? So the kids are associating different colors, different speakers with the ability to hear something. Like that's the big goal that I'm trying to get here. I don't have to run around and repeat myself. I don't have to run around and tell the kids like what they're supposed to be doing on these slide decks. The teacher and I often are just milling around the room and maybe somebody's trackpad isn't working properly, or they really are getting frustrated with what that letter is and why isn't it typing. And we can hone in on those particular problems where the kids are working through the activities themselves. This one is pretty awesome. So a kindergarten teacher who was doing amazing things with her student with her group of students. I'm actually going to go into the edit portion. You can see this one said, Sarah, I really want my kids to be using a Google Doc. Like, we've done a lot of slides. They're great. The kids love them, but I really want them to be on a word processing tool. Can we do a Google Doc? And I said, absolutely. What are you studying? And she said, space. And I was like, okay, you're going to have to help me out a little bit with this. But she was adamant that this is what she wanted to do. And I said, well, what if we just had the kids typing sentences? We could talk about capitalization and punctuation and the space bar and all that. And she was like, great. And I said, okay, what are some of the things that you have to teach the kids? Like, what are the learning standards? So fed me, like she gave me these particular sentences. So when I went in with this activity, a little bit heavier on the directions, and I wanted to be sure that they understood what the space bar is. So I'm still layering in pictures. It's a very visual thing for kindergartners. Different speaker buttons. These are still Mote. You can still play them. And it says this exact thing. Again, another speaker button. It's going to repeat. It's going to read these directions. Kids can listen to them multiple times. And then down here, they're going to start typing in this box. Now, the cool thing is I told the kids that there was like a secret hidden. And I said, look for the pictures. There's a secret in there. And I'd come in enough at that point that the kids knew that a lot of this was centered around being able to hear. So students found that I had hidden this sentence on the picture. So a little bit of discovery. And a lot of it mimics like what we were doing on the slides, but these students were able to practice typing their sentences. And the kindergarten teacher came up with this. She wanted to challenge her students. They were practicing typing. They were reinforcing science. You know, I even used pictures that matched the content of those particular sentences. It's amazing to watch these little ones grow from the beginning of the year to the end of the year to seeing them typing on Google Docs. It actually is really quite impressive. And this teacher, I give her a lot of kudos because she works really hard with these students to improve their independence and their confidence at that same time. Now, this one is very thematic, and Eric Kurtz was the inspiration for this. He does a lot of those Build a Snowman, a lot of those other really cool thematic holiday inspired activities. So a colleague of mine, Beth Kingsley, created this Build a Turkey for her third grade classroom, which was very similar to what Eric Kurtz puts out. This one was just related to Thanksgiving. I had a first grade teacher that wanted to do this with her students, and I had just found Mote and I was really getting into it. And I thought, Mote can help them too, right? So I took Beth's activity of Build a Turkey and I incorporated Mote onto this. So there are, again, let me go into, there are audio directions built into this slide deck so that even as a third grader, they're able to support themselves. Our students come in all ranges, right? So I always want to make sure that I'm accommodating to that I am reinforcing and I am supporting all of our students. So to have the recorded directions here, I'm not chasing around trying to repeat myself 12 times. Each slide has directions. I made it brightly colored. It's very visually appealing to the eye. And the students become little independent workers. Beth did an amazing job. And I was able to take what she had already done for third graders, and I was able to make it more appropriate for a younger grade group. And then another third grade teacher was very excited about all of this stuff. And she said she wanted to do book reviews. And I thought, oh man, book reviews, that's a lot of directions. It's a lot of instruction. So again, I incorporated Mote, knowing that, again, as third graders, they're still learning to read. And I wanted to make sure that I was being mindful of that. So what I did was I wrote all the directions, so reinforcing their reading skills, but I also recorded it. I also knew students in her class that did have these specific needs for support, so I wanted to make sure I was doing that. And then I incorporated the directions on how you can replace this blue generic person, and they would actually replace it with their own face. So their tech skills are a little bit more. So I'm asking them a little bit more. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. They loved being able to do a lot of this independently. And as a teacher walking around in this classroom, I could tell by what had already been replaced with maybe a student that's too shy to ask for help on something, or they didn't ask their neighbor and help each other out. Mote is a really awesome way for your students to be able to continually grow and learn, and it takes a little bit off of you as the teacher. So finally, I'm getting kind of close to wrapping up here, but I also want to make sure that you know that all of these activities that I've shared out there on this presentation, all of them are available. You are welcome to take them, use them in your own classroom. You simply make a copy of them. So when you see them and you see this use template, if you click on it, it's going to automatically make a copy in your drive. And again, if you want to use my voice because it comes with the slide, ready to go, push it out into your classroom. If you want to take my audio off and in place put your own, go for it. I share them out freely. You're allowed to make your own copies. You can add on to these. You could take away some stuff, but I really do hope that they inspire you to do this for your students, especially those little ones that oftentimes I hear people say, oh, they're too little. They can't do that. They're not able to. And I always say, absolutely not. These little ones can fly if we let them and we support them properly. So, as I said at the beginning, actually, John said at the beginning, I do blog a little bit less frequently these days at my website, techucando.com. And you'll be able to find links to, I have a couple of side blogs that have kind of been inspired by these last handful of years. This one over here is called Templates for Teacher. And a lot of the Build the Turkey, the book review, they're all living on Templates for Teachers, along with, we're up to about maybe 85 templates, I think, of all kinds of different reasons. Some are for teachers, some are for students. But excuse me, we have templates that are available out there. And what I really love about this is a second version of Templates for Teachers website, but it shows you how I should say, we give some examples of how you could take this activity created for a specific grade level and push it up to older grades, or maybe even bring it down to lower grades. So how you could maybe do some adapting for particular grades. And then this is one of my newest endeavors called Tech with Littles, which is a lot where Mote with Littles is inspired, but it does have several of the activities that I was sharing on here. Tech with Littles. This is a partnership between myself and a first grade teacher who got very excited with the two of us working in her classroom, seeing what her students were capable of doing, the creativity that they were able to do and express, and all of the activities that are made for kindergartners ish area. I've got living on Tech with Littles. And you could find templatesforteachers.com, and then this is techwithlittles.blogspot.com. But if you go to techucando.com, you're going to find all of the links there. And you can find my socials there. And I would love if you guys followed me. If you need help with something, reach out. I love hearing from other educators. Actually, several of these, this one right here, this informational postcards, was actually a teacher that had reached out to me and said she wanted to have something for her science class to do some sort of like a writing activity, but she didn't want it to be an essay. So I asked her a couple more questions and we came up with the idea of them doing postcards. Pretty short and concise, great graphics. So I created a little postcard template for her and her students to use. So if you reach out because you have a question, you have something that's kind of an idea that's kind of niggling around in your head and you want some help with it, I'd love to be a person that would help support you.